So this is the existing near side floor, and this is the offside floor. You can see it's been patched up before. This side's just flat sheet plate, no pattern in it, and not really correct. Using some thin cardboard, we traced an original floor pan to achieve the correct patterns. And we marked the bends in it as much as we could, clearly as we could, and anything that we thought we might have to cut out. Note that on the MGC, the passenger floor pan and the driver's side floor pan, although basically is the same, there is a difference up near your left foot, which you need to do an additional cut. Then you mark out the pattern onto 2 sheets of 11 or 12mm ply, one screwed on top of the other, but you have to cut right through both sheets. The 2 sheets with the holes in are then placed on top of a flat sheet of ply to use as a backing board. This will determine the depth of your pattern. You can just about see 3 there, and the pattern on the top. I thought that this depth of about 11-12mm would be too deep initially to form the pattern, so I decided to cut some thin spacers to make the pattern less deep. So using some 3 or 4mm thick hardboard, I traced the patterns that I previously cut out onto the hardboard and cut them out. Template to mark out the pattern onto some 19 gauge Zintex steel. This is also my first time using some pneumatic shears, so that was quite fun. Having lined up the 3 sheets of ply, I then drilled right the way through all 3 sheets with some quarter-inch drill bit, and then I clamped them together as I went with some screws. then disassembled it again and inserted the sheet steel between the sandwich, in other words the two pieces of ply, as you can see with the holes in it. And at this point it's important to work out which way you've actually got to hit the pattern. So mark the side that you need to hit. So having then lined up, sliding in the sheet steel, and I then lined all the holes up and drilled through the sheet steel as well, so that all three were located correctly. Making sure that the nuts are really tight so that the steel is clamped in position, and to reduce stretch and warpage from the surrounding areas of the pattern that we're hopefully going to press. My original plan was to actually put this in the 20-ton press that I've got, and hopefully use the wooden shapes I've cut out to press the pattern through. But unfortunately the press isn't wide enough to accommodate the actual overall jig. So I resorted to the old hammer and chisel to form the pattern, just by bashing it down with a hammer. And it seemed to work quite well using various hand tools. Got to bear in mind I've never done this before, so it's all a bit of a learning curve. I just sort of looked at whatever I had laying around in the toolbox really, and see if I could bash it down to form the pattern, and it was certainly doable. and boredom quickly set in. So I looked to use a socket just jammed on the end of the pneumatic chisel, and actually that worked quite well. Um, just planished it out a little bit and around the corners. Yeah, quite pleased with that. I also tried just using the chisel on the end of the pneumatic chisel. Again, that was quite successful. However, got to be a little bit gentle with it because it will have a tendency to try and go right through the sheet steel. But certainly very, very usable. So there we are. That's the socket on the end of the pneumatic chisel. So say certainly worth a try. And then I thought I'd try something else. This is a piece of Corian kitchen worktop, just a chunk of Corian worktop. It's like a high density plastic. I had a bit of offcut laying around and I just jammed it into a socket extension, turned the socket upside down on the end of the pneumatic chisel and made up a tool and tried that. I have to say that this material is very, very good. It's not as harsh to use as a steel or iron chisel bit, and yet it's hard enough and durable enough to really push the pattern through without cutting through the steel. I'd seen this material used before, but under another name of which I can't remember at the moment. But if you can get hold of some Corian worktop offcuts from a plumber or a kitchen fitter or something, it's certainly worth having some in your toolbox. I've also seen it used for making different planishing tools and for shaping processes, so I should certainly be experimenting with this material in the future. I first used it on some stainless steel mud guards that I've been restoring, and I have to say they work very, very well. Just gently tapping thin stainless steel, you can get out minor imperfections and irregularities. And finally, the great reveal. Just at this point, you can see the little spaces that I've put in the bottom of the pattern to reduce the depth. As I didn't point that out too clearly earlier, but there's the end result. I'm quite happy with that. It's not bad for a first attempt. It's very little warpage in the panel and definitely got a definition of the shape. I thought I could probably just quickly tidy up the pattern a little bit, the steel a little bit, just using a hammer, a little bit of hammer work, just to try and improve what I can. But generally speaking, I was very pleased with it. Then I started to think to myself, using the wooden blocks, could I actually use those as a bit of a former? So having taped them on the back and just laid them on the concrete floor, and then I thought I'd just pin them down a little bit, and again it just helped them improve just a little bit. Certainly worth doing, I thought.